Hi there. I'd like to make a video blog for those people that like to see me, get to know me a little bit better. Certainly, I've done a lot of work here, and I'd like to share it with you. I've just completed emailing prayers to all 50 states of this great nation, and I want to thank every one of you that is praying in my behalf, beseeching God to have mercy on my plight. And that would be a prayer, wouldn't it be, for every single one of us to have our trials lessened and our hearts lightened. Anyway, I write here, the weight of grief deepens as loved ones depart and friends become sparse. And wouldn't this be true for everyone that grows older, that the loved ones that pass on, how can we replace that with a memory? It's a bit wordless there, isn't it? So with the time left, it will be revealed to me where I land and what this truth of God's purpose in my life will be. I wait in his life just like every single one of us also waits. And I thank you for allowing me to read this to you and have patience. There is a great debate that rages across the land. What does God ask of us? And what would be his truth? Mixed in with the quagmire of human doctrines that seem to be out there. It's a world of tolerance and people claiming that they know one answer or another. Well, God's word does reveal that truth to us, and I encourage you to examine further the work that I've presented, and I hope it lifts and edifies and opens your heart to know the truth of God. This is the work that I work on. Now, these arguments that we have are not unique to our times. People have been questioning about God for the eons past imagination in our hearts. But each one of us, each one of these questions, it plunges to the deepest reaches of our souls, doesn't it? Life and death desperately knocks at all of our doors, especially as the young approach into the distance. And how can that be if we grow old? And all too fast. The question is, do we search for something greater? And if we do, this would be true of all that hope. Hope is a creation of God. And this is something he searches for in each one of our hearts. And it produces something greater than ourselves, doesn't it? Hope for something outside of ourselves. Now, freedom from bondage would be a universal plea, and it rises from our innocence as life influences our thoughts. Now, as we grow up, we become the people that we are. We're influenced by what surrounds us, and that can have an effect on who we are and how we think. Now, I would say that time is the lock to the cell in which we all reside. And hopefully we find freedom in our hearts without the despair that locks us into the tragedies that we see going on in so many different parts of the world. Now, as time has been presented to humans' life on the earth, universal keys have been delivered to all the ages of mankind, and they can be found in this is it, caring over despising. Do we have hearts of love, or do we have hearts of rage? Do we despise others? And road rage is the gauge that shows us this, and our land is plagued with so many in despair and despising. It's just a shame that we've reduced to this point. Now, the key to each one of us is that we choose to control anger with love. Love is something that you learn after you become thoughtful. And it is this maturity that God searches for in his children. Do we cover our anger with our love? You know, forgiveness is the softness of a heart. And we need to forgive not only ourselves, but we need to forgive those that would transgress against us. And that's why Jesus told us to love our enemies, so that we would have free hearts and that they would not be the controller of our prison, that God would be our release from prison. Now, we can assume that simple truth can be the hardest to implement. This could be a book. Raging hearts have always filled the land. There's more angry people than peaceful people. I think we can agree on that throughout the time of life here on the earth. But it is individuals pursuing the inspired principles delivered by God by his own breath that will save our communities. And it won't be the raging groups trapped in their little mini wars of the cars, or traveling down the road, pointing their fingers at everyone else, saying, this is why the world has its troubles. We need to look at ourselves and not blame others. This is the healing force that God brought to us. Now, when one does commit, it comes as a whole thing. It doesn't come in parts. And we should pray for each one of us, all of us, that our hearts return whole in the light of his healing truths that each one of us can discover. God doesn't hide behind concrete walls or in chambers of edifices of man. He's right there close to each one of us. I can only humbly say that for myself, I can do no more than bow at his inevitable coming. I pray God for the deliverance of hearts, that we return to decency over the destruction and the family squabblings that are going on about in all the cities of man across this great world. Madness surely consumes those with the shackles of darkness. And so we do. We need the light of God to miraculously set us free. You know, vision is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So I pray that his clarity delivers each one of our hearts. God bless you, and thank you for listening.